Let's all go to the lobby, lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the. Let's all go to the. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the. Let's all go to the. Let's all go to the lobby.
What is up, real ones? This is Admiral Besis Rodriguez. With me, as always, for the one Real In podcast, the great and powerful Marco Dupa.
Here.
We watched a highly reviewed movie called Sinners recently, and we got some thoughts as a couple sinners ourselves. Let's give it a little cheers. How about that?
Let's do it.
Oh yeah, now we're cooking.
What's this?
This is a nondescript bourbon that we're going to pretend is corn liquor from Mississippi.
It's corn liquor?
The Mississippi Delta, to be exact.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the beer that you brought, because it does tie in to this movie. I wasn't able to make a fancy cocktail, unfortunately, this time, but...
That's okay. I think
something.
this is still on brand.
I think so.
This is from Boulevard Brewing. It's their Rye on Rye Barrel Aged Ale. I don't know if we've done this on the show. I know we've done some Boulevard stuff.
We had to have. I would be very surprised if we haven't.
But this is from their Smokestack series. And so, if you know anything about the One Beer In, or the One Real In, is that we stay on brand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's why I did it. There you go. You can see that.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, we had recently had conversations about how to go about the synopsis reading, because my synopses tend to roll on. Some say a bit too long.
I wouldn't say that. Some would say it.
I've heard you say
but
it.
I didn't say it.
So in order to help, yet again, because it just didn't feel right to me the past couple of times that I've just read it off of, Google, especially with AI involved. Boo, boo.
Boo.
So what I did is I actually prepared.
Okay.
And I wrote a sort of short script
Okay.
that I'm going to read for you.
Okay.
So I can keep it tight, but get all the information that I want to convey to the audience.
All right. I am fully on board for
That's
this.
okay with you.
I love this.
Okay.
I love this.
I hope that's okay with you folks as well.
Well, you're going to have to love it. Don't you turn this off. Don't you turn this off.
Jay, you're going to hurt my
Sit
feelings.
right there. You're going to hurt his feelings. You want to hurt his feelings? Is that what you want? Look at his face. You're going to hurt that face? Why would you do that? You sit there and you listen. They're going to listen. They're going to listen.
Okay.
Aren't you going to listen?
Well, you can only listen if you've seen the movie already, because if not, I want you to get out of here, because this is a spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Michael B. Jordan stars in the latest film by Black Panther, Creed, and Fruitvale Station director Ryan Coogler as the Smokestack twins. Smoke is the more level-headed businessman, and Stack is the more hot-headed hustler type. The twins returned from Chicago back home to Mississippi in 1932, opening a juke joint in an old sawmill with the money they got from their adventures up north. They recruit their younger cousin, Sammy, a.k.a. Pastor Boy, whose prized possession is a resonator guitar, and a local blues singer named Delta Slim as entertainment for the night, as well as Smoke's estranged wife, Annie, a hoodoo practitioner, to cook, along with other locals to help out with the festivities. These festivities kick off. Strangers try to join in on the fun, led by Remick, the head and very Irish vampire, are rejected and begin to turn whoever leaves the juke joint, including Mary, Stack's ex-girlfriend, into vampires. Mary kills and turns Stack. The party ends. Everyone who left the juke joint gets turned. They try to lure out the survivors by telling Smoke that the clan was planning on coming back to massacre everyone anyway. Grace, who is the Chinese sign maker, hold on.
Aren't you reading this? You lose your spot?
Yes. Okay, so excuse me, I'm sorry. Grace, the Chinese sign maker, invites them in after.
I can cut this out if you want.
No, it's fine. Please. After her turned husband threatens their daughter, the vampires attack. Annie gets bit and Mercy killed by Smoke. Delta Slim sacrifices himself. Sammy escapes, and Smoke pins Stack, but can't bring himself to kill his brother. Sammy's attacked by Remick outside before Smoke stabs Remick with a stake just as sunrise lights up the remaining vampires. Finally, Smoke sends Sammy back home and expeditiously takes out the clan members who planned their attack on the twins. He is fatally shot in the process, but sees Annie and their deceased baby as he passes away. Sammy makes it back home to his dad's chapel. Then we time jump to a blues bar in 1992 where an elderly Sammy is playing. He's approached by Vampire Stack and Vampire Mary, who offer to turn Sammy. He says no thanks, but performs for them before the couple leave him to live out the rest of his natural life. The end.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
That took you, what, 8 minutes? Not even that long?
That's with a couple of, stutters in there, too.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
I could get it down to 5.
I think that this right here, this is the move.
Okay.
This is the move. This is good.
I felt good about it.
You should.
Thank you.
It was good.
Thank you.
That's the move.
So, yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, that is the movie. What did you think? Because we have had conversations in the past, and this is a major reason why I left watching this movie in theaters originally, saying Mark was going to love this, because we have talked so much about how much the sort of tradition of blues folktales kind of speaks to you, and you enjoy like that sort of devil at the crossroads type thing.
Yeah.
So that's basically in the same tradition that this movie follows. What did you think? I'm very curious to hear.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely, positively love this movie. I know, and I kind of wish, I guess it wouldn't really matter because, Twitter is such a cesspool now. But I wish I had seen this opening day so that I could have joined in on some of the discourse that was going on when the movie at first came out. Because I saw a lot of opinions that I agreed with. The people, maybe it's okay. It's tough for me because of how much I liked this movie. But some of the people who were like, it's overrated or it's nothing but a From Dusk Till Dawn ripoff, or it's
already
just a vampire movie. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
I hate to be the too woke friend, but I think it's a really deep movie.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not hyperbolic to talk about how deep the movie is. Even though maybe I'll say that once you get past the kind of build up and exposition of the movie, once you get into the juke joint and all the killing starts,
it feels like different movies.
It does.
Yeah.
At that point is when it does become sort of a pseudo-traditional vampire movie. Everything leading up to that first hour and a half of the movie is just, to me, nothing short of spectacular. I was enthralled from minute one. Some say it's a little slow in the beginning. I disagree.
I would, and this is not an original idea because I saw this on Twitter as well, but I agree completely in that I would have watched a movie in which the second half never happens. And it's just about these brothers coming back home.
Yeah, if this was a movie solely about them actually like robbing Italians and trying to like
and
Irishmen,
pitting them against each other,
and then trying to open a juke joint in the South because like it didn't like whatever beef they got into in the North. Like if it was just that, that was a good enough movie.
Oh yeah.
And then adding the vampire aspect of it was just the cherry on top of making it supernatural and a fun movie.
Right.
But it was already a good movie.
Yes.
Without that.
Agreed.
So yeah, I was enthralled minute one. I think the way that they build the movie, the layering that they do, the story that they're telling. I mean, there's one moment that, man, I almost started crying. It really hit me when Slim is telling the story about why he knows those dudes on the chain gang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
he knows them all.
yeah.
Which one do you know? All of them.
And when he finishes the story, it's this, and I don't know how many people like caught this, but he at first you can tell he's fighting back the emotion, right?
Yeah.
And he's like almost like the story's almost too tough for him to tell, and he's kind of doing this like and then it turns into a song.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what the blues is, man.
His moaning, his pained moaning turns into music.
And it like sends, I'm saying it now, it's sending chill down my spine. Like it's such a good way to inject that idea of this is how the blues, this is how black music in general becomes what it is.
Yeah.
Is like that pain is turned into this thing.
Yeah. Expressed in art.
And the way that Coogler and Delroy Lindo do that part is, oh man, I was like, oh, they're going for it in this.
Yeah.
They were going for it.
There are beautiful little moments in the movie, completely outside of the genre trappings that it kind of falls into eventually with the vampire stuff that I think are just profound. May sound like too lofty a word, but I think are really like some of the things that I've continued to think about over time after seeing this movie now twice.
I'll even say this. This is stepping on our sections a little bit, but maybe the weakest part of the movie is the vampires.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, let's table that and come back to it.
I will get more into that once we get into our specific segments, but I just want to say, overall, I agree completely. I think this is we have to give it more time, but the watchability of it and the depth of it combined together to make something, I think, really special.
Yeah.
And definitely, for me, one of the best movies I've seen this year.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see this be one of those movies that people continue to come back to.
I haven't seen any movies this year.
Okay, well,
that's a lie. We saw Mission Impossible.
We did.
And I think that's the only new movie I've seen this year.
You're saying like in theaters or just in general?
Just in general. I don't think I've seen a movie that's come out in 2025.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I need to start catching up. We're halfway through the year already.
Yeah.
Not going to have anything from my list. So it goes.
I had myself a solo movie day where I went and watched 28 Years Later.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So, incredible. Incredible stuff.
You wouldn't want to see that.
Sherry didn't want to see it.
It's gore porn. But you wouldn't want to watch
Sherry
it.
didn't want to see it. And so that's why I took the opportunity to go and watch it myself, because I was already starting to get spoiled with stuff.
Took yourself out on a date?
Yeah, I did. And it was great. And
Wunderbar.
I'll get more into it next episode of the One Beer In podcast. Maybe my Cheers of the Week. Who knows?
Anything can happen.
But I bring that up to say these two movies, I think, are really great examples of what you can do with genre.
Yeah.
And the depth that you can reach and the sort of societal lessons you can try to teach within the trappings of something that was at one point looked at as like this lowbrow. Oh, Jesus.
Wasn't ready for that. 13.2%. We've had to have had this for
yeah, Not So Sober October.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I was profoundly saying,
sorry.
I think these two have been really perfect examples of what you can do within genre, and two of the best movies I've seen this year.
Yeah,
and I think really good double feature.
Okay.
I would love to watch these two back to back because they tonally, I feel like, fit really well as different as they are, subject and sort of location wise. I think they work really well together as modern horror without having to be called like elevated horror.
Yeah,
they're not like A24 horror movies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Sinners isn't an elevated quote unquote horror movie.
No.
It really is just a horror movie, but it does. I think that Coogler was able to say something, tell a story without the needling of, oh, is it an A24 movie? Is it like one of those super deep kind of slow horror movies? Is it, it didn't have to be that. It's also like, I think that people need to understand it's a really, really fun movie.
It is.
It's a fun ride, and everybody's so good in it.
Yeah.
That it once it gets rolling, it doesn't stop until the very end of the movie, and those are like the best horror movies.
Yeah.
When like it's going and you're like, it's at a breakneck speed, your heart's pounding.
Yeah.
Shit is being thrown at you. It's just a good horror movie just on its face.
Yeah.
Without having to say something or be something more than that.
Yeah, well, it has its cake and eats it too. And
Yeah.
I feel like there is a bit of... there can be a little bit of like dissonance within that can rub people the wrong way. But, I mean, at least I think...
And that it's like too fun while also trying to be...
Yeah, and I think it can go two ways where, like, some people it may not be genre enough for some people that are just looking for a straight up horror movie, like a Blumhouse kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're like, there's not enough jump scares. But then on the other hand, there are some people who, like us, really enjoyed that beginning sort of foundation of the movie so much that once it does, I won't say devolve, but turns into a straight up vampire movie eventually, feel a little disappointed or that it's disjointed and like didn't live up to the kind of strong, historically based kind of story it was originally setting out to tell.
Yeah.
So I think that I will say for myself at least, more often than not, it did work. It did work well together.
I don't think there was ever a moment where it didn't work per se. I think especially once it like everybody is acknowledging that it's a vampire movie. Mm-hmm. I think at that point it takes a sharp left and you're like, this is a different movie now.
Yeah.
When they're doing the and I will say for the record, the comparisons to From Dusk Till Dawn are warranted.
Absolutely.
Because there are moments in this movie that are straight up like
beat for beat,
just From Dusk Till Dawn.
Like different characters.
There's the moment where they kind of go, okay, it's vampires. And then it's like, what do we know about vampires? And that is just straight up From Dusk Till Dawn. They're sitting in a bar. The doors are locked or chained up or what have you, or whatever is keeping the vampires outside. And you have this moment of calm.
They're doing that Night of the Living Dead thing where it's like...
Yeah, like what do we do? How do we fight this?
Yeah.
What do we know about this new enemy?
Right.
And then you have the one person who knows or has some sort of insight. You have the one person who's like, I don't know, man, silver bullets or something. And then somebody else is like, did you read that in a book somewhere?
No, that's werewolves.
Yeah. So that is definitely not unwarranted comparisons.
Sure. Noticeable missing of Cheech, but
Yeah, and that's too bad. Because they could have just thrown some random Mexican in there. They had Irishmen, they had black people, and they just throw a random Mexican and Asian people.
Oh, yeah.
Just a random Mexican just comes strolling in.
I mentioned this when we watched it. There was a tamale shop.
Yeah,
in
and
town.
he could have owned it. Could have just come out and been like, tamale pussy, pussy.
That's not a Mexican accent we're doing. That's a
Cheech accent.
Yes.
Yeah, that is because Cheech don't talk like that either. So that is a Cheech impression.
Yeah.
That is not a Mexican impression. Let that be clear.
Let me be clear.
Yeah. When I do impressions,
I do them respectfully.
I do want to kind of go back to the beginning.
Okay.
And kind of just really highlight. to your point about how much I enjoy
Yeah.
this sort of thing, the myth, or I guess the storytelling of how music can bring people together, but it can also be a conduit for like evil spirits and things like that. Man, oh man, did that get my engine revving. I was like, I loved it so, because honestly, I hadn't really thought about music to me. I mean, it's the greatest thing that
Is that your memoir title?
Yes, music to me. I think it's the greatest thing that humans have ever created.
Yeah.
I just essentially think that life is only worth living because music exists. And I never really thought about the idea of like, I have thought about the idea that like music can conjure spirits and can kind of bring, it has this like interdimensional kind of power over people. I never really thought about the idea of it being like a gateway to, unwanted spirits or evil spirits and things like that. Because I mean, my idea of music is always so positive.
Sure.
But I do love the idea of, Pandora's box, kind of like you don't know what you're letting in with what you're doing, and where that belief system comes from is it's probably like a pseudo kind of Christianity thing of like, you're playing the devil's music and that's why he's here and stuff like that.
Well, there were evil chords at one point that you could not play because they were so dissonant and they made you feel weird. But that's the entire thing, though, too. It kind of speaks to that, is that music makes you feel whether you intend it to or not. Yeah. And it's such a low investment thing where just hearing certain notes together at the same time evoke a feeling. And that's so weird to think about. Yeah. But that's the idea behind it, really.
And it's so cool that maybe not as much as they could have, but they do, explore those ideas in this movie. And I think there's a lot of ideas that Ryan Coogler is trying to explore. I think there's a lot of stuff that he's trying to say. And I think that, maybe if he had a little bit more time to explore one thing or the other, he might have been a little bit more successful in telling those ideas.
Sure.
But it's a lofty goal to try to hit everything that he tries to hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it asks more questions or presents more ideas than it answers or fleshes out.
And I think sometimes that's a little bit of a cop-out to be like, hey, man, I'm just asking questions. Right. I'm just saying, what if it was this?
Yeah.
I think a writer's job, even if it's not revealed in the movie, I think a writer's job is to have the answers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've had an idea and you fleshed it out. I don't think it's okay to just be like, well, I wrote it open-ended, just to kind of say, yeah, you guys deal with it. I think that you can do that, but I do think that you should have an answer. And I don't know if Ryan Coogler has an answer. I'm not going to speak to that because I don't know. There's no way of knowing like how fleshed out he has answered all of these questions and stuff. But but the movie does kind of tail off into a, well, what if it was this and what if it was that?
Yeah, I think the more that he's been on the press junket, the more he's kind of let out of the box a bit, which makes me think he does have answers to all these questions, or he does have reasonings for why he did certain things, made certain decisions about characters and whatnot. But I do think he's smart enough to be like, up to you.
I think that's fine, too, as well.
Yeah. I actually like that more than being like, no, the top actually did fall down at the end. I don't know. I prefer having a bit of ambiguity. Yeah. I know that drives other people crazy.
It drives a lot of people crazy, man.
I kind of like it.
Anytime you talk to somebody who watches movies a little like more casually and doesn't have like a more critical eye about it.
Sure.
Man, open-ended movies drive people fucking nuts.
I wasted 2 hours.
One of my ex-girlfriends, man, we went and saw Inception, and she was just like, what the fuck? She was so mad at the end. And I was like, I mean, like in the moment, we walked out of that theater, and I was like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. But I saw it with a friend of mine, and he was so like his brain couldn't function for a second. He was like, I need a second, man.
Yeah,
I need to think about this movie. So I like walked
doing
away
the
from
mental
him.
math,
I was like,
like-
okay, man, you're okay. Then I go over to her and she's just like, why couldn't he just tell us what happens in it? Like, why couldn't we know what happens with the top?
Yeah.
And I was just like, you gotta just let things be what they are.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think happened? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, you need to relax. So yeah, some people do not have that kind of eye for things like
Sure.
that. They really just they're like, dude, I spent money to just go enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And now I have to think. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think it does depend on what you're trying to get out of an experience. So I get it. If you're in it just for a crowd pleaser, that's not going to float your boat. But
And I guess to maybe the detriment of the movie, it is such a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
That it has all those hallmarks of a movie that will answer all your questions.
Yeah.
And not have to, you not have to have this kind of ambiguity with what happens or why it happens.
yeah,
So like you said, I mean, it's so many things at once that maybe that kind of hurts it. I don't know if it hurts it or not. I don't know. I'm still deliberating on this thing. I'm still thinking about everything that I really would like to watch it again.
yeah. And I recommend it after watching it a second time.
Yeah.
It's it is a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
a movie I plan to watch over and over again.
Yeah, I'm
So,
gonna buy it.
yeah, it's a good one. Okay, should we get into our categories?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. What are your highlights? What are your goods?
Goods.
Give me the goods.
Give me the goods. Ryan Coogler.
Yeah,
He's got the stuff.
it's got the Dutch.
He's got it. He's got it. My man. The movie looks great. It feels like it's directed well. I mean, it's casted well. I mean, like what he's done, like what he's written. Just the overall like global idea of the movie is a highlight for me. Like the setting, the story that's being told, the way it's being told, all of that stuff is like this is just right up my alley, man. I love this shit. I love this. I love the time period.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love the time period, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's not a good time period, but it's an interesting one. People are always talking about like how, and I saw this too as one of the criticisms of the movies. Like, how many times are we going to make these like struggle movies with black folks? And it's like, I don't think that this is one of those things. I think that like just because it's set in a time period where, I guess so, not to get too political or anything,
boy.
but at what point in human history, especially American history, are you going to find a time period in which black people are thriving to the point that there's no societal or systemic issues that they have to deal with, that you can't tell this kind of story?
Right.
Even right now, you can't. You could still tell a story similar to this.
Sure.
And so there's no point in American or human history in which you can be like, why are we still telling this story? Why don't we tell this story?
I mean, in a way, that's kind of what Fruitvale Station's about too.
Yeah.
Set in modern time.
Right. And exactly. And it's still like, listen, man, like why are we still doing this? Why is this still happening? That's essentially the point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really give that criticism too much play, but I just think it's.
Why would it matter if it's important for the director and writer to make that story?
Well, I think because a lot of people are tired of seeing movies where black folks like struggle at the hands of society.
Well, yeah, you don't want to see like torture porn all the time about black people,
right?
You know, like that. I understand that at least, but at the same time, especially a black artist making art about this, I feel like shouldn't be that controversial.
No, and I don't, and I just want to say I don't think it is. This was just something that I saw on Twitter. Okay. It's not a prevailing thought about the movie. It's just something that I saw and someone I was annoyed by. Yeah, I was just annoyed by it. But the music is amazing. I'm talking about highlights.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even when the Irish people come in and they start doing their thing, I'm like, this is awesome. Everything about it. There's the one scene where he's playing and it's like going through all of the time periods. Such a great scene.
Really experimental, brave filmmaking.
Took a huge risk.
Could have fallen on its face.
Yeah,
and it was jarring the first time I saw it too. I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah,
and then I was like, "Ah, okay, all right."
Because he's very clearly, kind of living above what is happening and using that as a conduit, a storytelling tool rather.
Yeah.
And so when that scene happens, you're like, oh, he's really going for it on this one, man.
Yeah.
And I think the risk pays off.
For sure.
I love that scene. Delroy Lindo is a highlight in everything that he does. And this still,
no exception. Yeah.
He's so good. He's just so good in it. Haley Stanfield is amazing in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, man. I saw some of the clips online, and I really thought that she was gonna be nastier than she was. I was a little disappointed.
Uh-huh.
There's the one scene where they meet, and she's like, "You stuck your tongue in my cooter," and I was like, "Oh!" But then after that, she's just not really that freaky, and I thought that she was gonna be freakier.
She spits in his mouth.
Yeah, but that's after.
That's true.
Right there, she's already a vampire at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she got nasty when she was a vampire.
Sure, as they do.
Right.
Yeah, they're known to do.
I was hoping for her to be freakier. Maybe I sound like a gooner right now, but I was just like,
Field, not freaky enough.
I just think let me just say before anybody gets on my case, I just thought from the trailer and from seeing that clip online, that part of her story was going to be how nasty she was.
Yeah.
And in fact, she wasn't that nasty.
No.
Not until she became a vampire.
Then she
and I
got
also
nasty.
stupidly thought that she was always a vampire, even though they were talking in daylight. I thought that at
You
that.
don't know the
You thought that
rules.
too? Yeah,
You don't know
I
the
don't know
rules.
the rules that Ryan Coogler has put in place.
Right.
So I thought the fact that she was being so forward in that way, I was like, oh yeah, she's already a vampire.
She's an infiltrator.
Yeah.
Which she ended up being, but it was only after she turned.
Yeah, but everybody was. And at that point, once she got turned, it was kind of like, it was unbelievable to think that, like, anybody was going to be tricked by her.
Sure.
Except for Dum Dum, who just wanted,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just had to kiss him,
Yeah. That's all it took.
even though she was salivating.
Yeah. And he was like,
You're drooling, baby.
drooling, baby. And I was like, ooh. Now I'm like, here we go. This is what I'm talking about.
Spit on that thing.
Yeah, you got hot too. And you know what? And I also say not enough gratuitous. I'm the opposite of these kids nowadays who are like too much sex scenes.
Yeah.
Not sexy enough. Not freaky enough. Not naked enough.
It's weirdly visually chaste,
Yeah.
but verbally dirty.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, you saying all this? Like, let's see it.
They talk a lot about
Get nasty. Let's
eating that stuff.
Yeah.
Eating that stuff
And that
up.
Mississippi sun. Get in there.
Yeah.
Get nasty. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Get wet, get nasty.
Get wet, get nasty. That's all I'm saying. I just felt a little, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't a little nastier. That's all I'm saying.
think there was a weird expectation that for some reason, well, I guess not for some reason, for the reason you just said, is that people tend to be really weird about sex in movies nowadays.
Well, there's such prudes that when that scene, because that scene goes viral, right? And you see all these people talking about it.
Allen.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, but that
wasn't gratuitous at all.
Not even a little bit. She
Yeah.
didn't even say like pussy or like she didn't even say like something nasty. She's like, stuck your tongue in my cooter, and then she says like, you fucked the shit out of me. I think she says something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then so that's but it's like, bro, you guys grow up.
Right.
Grow up. No one has said this kind of stuff to you before. Grow up.
You would have died in the 80s.
Exactly. Like, what? Why are we just being so weird about shit like this that it makes scenes like that seem freakier than they are?
Sure.
Because everybody's being so fucking weird nowadays.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But, you know, I think at least them being openly sexual. I was about to say overtly, but not even. Like, openly sexual, talking about sex.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, well, and I think in a way, some people could look at that and be like, oh, unnecessary. Why are they talking all that gross stuff? First of all, grow up, as Marcus said.
Uh-huh.
Secondly, I think it humanizes people of that generation into being like, oh, those aren't just our great-grandparents.
Right.
Like, those were people.
Right.
That lived lives very much like ours.
Right.
Very different, but at the same time, they were still human beings who had sex and talked about it.
Yeah.
And we're freaky with it.
Dude, listen to those old 30s blues songs.
Oh, yeah.
They're disgusting.
Yes. Yes, they are.
People were like this from the dawn of time. And the fact that we're kind of going backwards
Right.
scares me. But I don't want to
Do you
spend
know
too
what
much time.
hoochie coochie means?
Come on, dude.
Do you know what rock and roll means?
Come on, dude.
Not to miss the fact that it's very obvious why they kept talking about oral sex.
Right.
It's a vampire
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
about
yeah.
eating.
Yeah.
It's about
We got some real eaters in this
Sucking.
movie. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
yeah.
Jesus. Just gave him
Sorry.
that guac 9,000.
Sorry.
You know what I'm saying?
Sorry.
This is an adult podcast, Sherry. Put it in her one stinky dinky.
2, 3 stinky dinky.
I think that is the extent of my highlights. What about you?
Okay,
Obi?
mine starts off with Jack O'Connell as Remick. Thought he was a standout. An actor I wasn't really on my radar before, but instantaneously was. I think this is a star-turning performance for him with the acting, the singing, the dancing. He does it all, and I think he really embodies that character and was completely believable in what could have been an over-the-top, unbelievable character in this relatively grounded movie. And I love all of his turns where he's really meek and scared from the beginning, and then sort of the same, friendly and completely kind when he's trying to weasel his way into the juke joint, and then completely menacing monster by the end of it. I also love that Ryan Coogler continues to show that you can make super interesting villains with complex plans and purposes, and make you understand what drives them and the fact that they're not just wholly evil to be evil. You know, they are doing something because they believe that's the right thing to do.
There is a point where they're like, listen, they're going to come back and murder everybody here anyway.
Right.
So you might as well just let us save you.
Yeah.
Save you by killing you.
We'll go kill them right after and save them.
Yeah.
You know, like, say, air quote, save them.
Yeah.
You know, we'll bring them into the Shepherd 2 or whatever.
And that is, you know, not as compelling to me, but the idea of it is very compelling of like, yeah, they're not, sure, they're bloodlusty vampires, but the reason is like, listen, I can make the suffering go away.
Well, and what is so interesting to me about it too is like they're not just bloodlusting, they are lusting for culture.
Ooh.
And that opens the floodgates to like what it means to be a culture vulture.
Yeah.
And the music industry at large and the history of, you know, pop culture taking from specifically black culture and absorbing it and making it their own and claiming it as their own. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes with the best intentions, air quotes.
Right.
So, you know, I think his character and his motivations really are maybe the most interesting thing, like bigger concept that I latched onto in the movie itself.
Right.
So I love that. I'm really looking forward to seeing Jack O'Connell in the next 28 years movie, because he's supposed to have a larger part in that movie. So excited for that. Directed by Nia DaCosta, actually.
Okay.
So
Okay. Oh, okay.
yes, coming out next year. Nice. Okay. Next, as you said, Delroy Lindo.
Yeah.
I think just does such a good job of taking a character that could have just been kind of comic relief and making him so much deeper.
Yeah.
And giving him a real soul, and having him be at some points menacing, at other points hilarious, kind of embodying that like uncle character, you know, and showing that just below the surface there's way more depth to this person that he's either unable or unwilling to share.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we all know somebody like that, or have somebody in our families like that, and is instantly recognizable. And I think he's just such a complex character that works so well in the piece that he plays in this entire narrative. Loved it.
Yeah, Delroy Lindo is so good at keeping what is very clearly an immense amount of pain just beneath the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's so good. And I don't even know how you do this. I don't know how you express this in a way that comes across on screen. I can't even imagine the like emotional minefields that it takes to dance around.
Oh yeah.
When you're filming something like this,
To get to that place and be able to show it.
Yeah.
But just, you know, just that much.
Exactly.
Just show
exactly.
it that much.
Exactly. It's so impressive
Right.
every time I see him now.
Clearly
man.
like a character that's struggling, that's been suffering his entire life.
Yeah.
But still makes music.
I loved him as the dad in Romeo Must Die, and that was the only thing that I knew him
Yes.
from for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time he pops up, I'm like, this is my fucking guy,
Yeah, he's
bro.
great.
I love
Great.
him.
Always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my last one is I wrote this out, the mishmash of very real, dead serious history and commentary with genre tropes and trappings on the music industry, culture, structural racism in the Deep South, and then mashing that directly with flying vampires, neck biting, blood spurting, the Thing tests, the tests from the Thing.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And yeah, I said surprisingly, it usually works in the long tradition of Robert Johnson deal with the devil folktale type stories.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that mishmash overall definitely works.
It's hard to do, man. It's hard to do what Ryan Coogler did with this movie. I think that people are not appreciating how difficult it is to do all of the things he does in this movie. I think some people are maybe, I don't know, ignoring what he's kind of pulled off in this movie.
Yeah.
The way that he's combined all of these genres.
Well, because it's a horror movie.
Right, and maybe that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's still, because it's a horror movie, it's not getting the kind of respect it deserves.
Yeah.
But he does some shit with this, man. I mean, it's crazy. It is. It's just it's such a well-made movie. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything that you just said, being able to tell those kinds of very deep stories, because again, some of that stuff is a movie in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then to combine it with another genre and just be like, also, it's a vampire movie too.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. And it's going to be like really graphic. We're going to have a lot of fun in this second half of the movie.
Yeah.
But we're going to say something in this first half.
We're gonna do a silly one.
We're going to do a silly one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Okay. Now I feel like this is a good way for me to transition into my negatives, but I will say the vast majority of my quote unquote negatives are more questions I was left with.
Right. Okay.
That I'm not going to call plot holes, but are more like, I'm curious how you interpret.
Okay.
So, okay, first of all, I think as a negative, or what could be a negative, is that it can be emotionally jarring to go from, the very real trappings of this place and time in history to a bloodbath vampire movie that is fun. And it can feel a little like, should I be having fun after what just preceded this?
Yeah.
So I found it like on my first watch, I was a little like, I didn't have my footing with the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas once we got to the fun, I was having a great time, but I kind of felt bad for it a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I was like, but what about everything that we were just like introduced to in this story? And then like, Sammy talking about how he wants to kind of live the life that the twins did. And I think it was Smoke telling him like, no, you're not going to do that. You should go to this town made and run by other black people who live right.
He was like, I'll straight up kill you.
I will kill you if you do that. So
I think, to that point, like to the From Dusk Till Dawn comparison, they do the same thing. You have to deal with Tarantino's character being a pedophile, being a psychopath, being a molester, like a really, really evil person,
like bloodthirsty killer. He doesn't care. Yeah.
And his brother, he's like, dude, I just want to rob banks.
Right.
And
I
if
want
people
money.
have to die, like they have to die because we're like trying to escape. Like I don't want to kill anybody.
Right.
And you have to deal with Harvey Keitel's character, like the death of his wife and him losing his religion.
Right.
REM shout out. And those things are very heavy subjects. And then you get to the vampires and all that shit just goes right out the window, man.
Yeah.
They just forget all of that shit. And that does kind of happen in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
A lot of that stuff just kind of goes out the window once the vampires show up. And you're like, we were having a very serious conversation over here.
Yeah.
And now that we have to deal with the vampires, we kind of have to table that. We kind of have to compartmentalize a little bit and come back to that.
And he does tie it back a little bit with that final scene with the KKK slaughter, which is very also genre movie. But
that
at the very end of that,
the slaughter going into the time jump.
Yeah.
Those two scenes taken together, I think, kind of tie it all up a little bit more.
Right.
But still a little shaky cam. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Like a little whiplash of like, how am I supposed to feel right now?
Right.
What do you want me to feel in this moment? You just had this conversation about systemic racism and all of the, like, you're having this really heavy conversation.
Well, and here's the thing too. The way I felt about everyone getting turned at that party, at the juke joint, like it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because then once they're all dead, they're all gone.
Right.
And it felt to me a statement about that entire generation.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like they were doomed anyway, and now they're all gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like,
and at the hands of a white man.
Well, yeah, and it would have ended that way anyway because the KKK were coming anyway to slaughter them anyway.
So the juke joint was doomed from the start.
Right.
They were never, these two brothers were never going to be successful.
They never had the power they thought they did.
Right.
Even when they thought they made it, they didn't.
Right. It was never going to be what it was or what they thought it was.
They don't outright really linger on that, but it was still affecting me while we were going through the rest of the kind of epilogue.
I think even just a moment more of like, I know when Remick shows up and he says they were going to come kill you guys anyway, so we're here to help. I think one of the black characters kind of reiterating like, hey man, he may be right. Like, we were never going to have this.
Yeah.
That maybe would have helped hammer the point home of you're still always kind of behind the eight ball in American society as a black person. You're always kind of fighting that uphill battle no matter what. And I think if like Delta Slim or the brother or somebody just kind of like pulls one of them aside and is like, yeah, I mean, we might want to listen to him because, yeah, he's right. We were never going to be able to do this.
You get power, immortality, you become part of something bigger.
Yeah, I think that might have been able to drive the point home a little bit more of how sometimes, most of the times, it can feel to be a black person in America.
Well, and not to add another even larger layer to this too, but I feel like they're already touching on it a bit, is the idea of the vampires also being symbolic for specifically Christianity, but religion as a whole. If you were to have somebody in that survivor group get converted, and be like, you know what, he's right. I actually life sucks right now. I want to be part of this. Yeah. And he goes and he or she does whatever they do. I think that would have helped a little bit. But, I did find it a little hard, again, to get my footing as far as these very serious, dark, deep, very real topics and having fun at the same time. Yeah. I felt a little guilty about that. But, I still did. And especially after second viewing, I was able to kind of push that aside a little bit.
Well, and I mean, that's essentially what Ryan Coogler is asking you to do in this movie. Is like, hey, man, all right, we had that conversation, and now we're doing the vampires.
Right. Cake and eat it too.
Right.
Okay. So beyond that, onto the question portion of my quote-unquote negatives.
See if we can talk this out.
Okay. I'm not sure what it means that Stack gets his happy ending while also being an extension of Remic's clan. I would have liked to see how he differentiates, because Remic and his motives were complex, but not something I would cheer for. Also, not knowing how Sammy balanced his inability to, air quotes, let go of his guitar when he gets back to the church.
Yeah.
And sort of like found refuge in the blues and music while also being personally and viscerally affected by what evils it could bring.
Right. It was everything that transpired enough to push him towards like, this is what I need to do. This is the story that I need to tell with my music. I can't go back. Why wouldn't going back to the church be a comfort for him? Why wouldn't going back to family and community be a comfort to him? Why did he go in the opposite direction? I would like to know that.
Yeah.
Why he thought, now I need to escape. Not just the vampires, but everything.
Right.
That city, that community, his family, the religion. He escaped it all.
Right.
Yeah, and Stack, not Smoke.
Stack. Smoke died.
Stack, I don't think he is living out Remic's dream. I think he is taking what was given to him, again, what black people have had to do in America, give what is taken to them, or
take what
is given to, give what is, and make the best of it, making lemonade out of lemons.
Sure.
Essentially. And he has said, okay, you are going to make me immortal. You are going to... What the fuck?
Shut up, Google.
Shut up, Google.
All right.
Taking what is given to him, right?
Yeah.
And like this is what he has now. He has immortality. He has his girl.
Yeah. They're both immortal together.
And now he's going to make the best of it. I do think I think essentially Ryan Coogler is saying that.
Yeah.
That now all he can do is make the best of it and like go throughout history from the 30s until 1992.
Yeah.
Making the best of these situations. Sure. And that's what black folks have had to do the entire history of America.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I would have liked a little more showing that these vampires aren't just these brain dead like monsters that are solely driven to acquire more vampires.
Yeah, because when he finds Homeboy and he's just like, we can make the suffering stop, man. We can help you, and it's like is that all you care about? Is
Right.
it just like build this army of vampires, or is
Yeah.
there anything more to this?
Right. It seems like they lose themselves, at least to a majority of a degree, that they are solely focused on growing this group.
Right. Yeah, I would have liked some kind of explanation as to, okay, they get bit and then all of a sudden they're just bloodthirsty vampires. That's it. There's no consciousness as to who they were before.
Yeah.
Or
Well, they say they know everything that anyone who's been part of that, I don't know what to call it, group of vampires. Not a coven, that's witches, but the group of vampires, I'm sure there's a word for it.
I mean, that murder of vampires.
The murder of vampires. The blood bag of vampires. They they know everything about each other's history
Right,
since they were
right.
bit, essentially.
Right.
So
Yeah, but that doesn't answer the question of like why does anybody's personality change so drastically? Is it just the evil that takes over and you're supposed to just not? Because then when they find him later on, that kind of belies the point, or even just the fun bit of, okay, now you're a vampire and all you are is just bloodthirsty and you just want to fuck and bite.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I can accept that.
I mean, vampirism for a long time has been an allusion to like drug addiction,
Right.
Or the things of that nature that are change your drivers, your motivations, and so
Sure, and I can rock with that. But then when they find him playing the blues, he's dressed up as Biggie. The Coogler sweater is crazy.
oh yeah,
And like I feel like there's a point being made there where he's playing the blues in the early 90s, kind of this timeless thing. This is the blues will go on forever. And he's dressed up as a rapper.
Yeah.
Not dressed up as a rapper, but dressed in the culture of hip hop. He's very clearly
he's changed with the times.
Yes.
He's not still dressed like Stack did.
Right. He
the
didn't
30s.
walk in a fucking zoot suit
Right.
and was like, "Oh, that blues, baby."
Right.
He was very of the time.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a point to be made there that he's adapted to each decade and I'm sure like he was wearing bell bottoms.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
then, you know, and so I do think that there's a point to be made there. I just wonder what it is. I guess I am a little the stinger at the end was very fun, but also I was like, what is? And maybe I'm an idiot, but I was very kind of like, I don't know what the deeper conversation we're having here is.
Yeah.
That he met him there. He waited until he was dying, essentially, because at any point he could have.
Well, yeah, and he told him like,
smoked.
I can smell that you don't have many more days left.
So he approaches him now that he's dying, and he's like, I can make your suffering go away. And it's like, I mean, he could have done that 10 years ago, though.
But Smoke told him not to.
So what? He waited up until the point that he was dying, and then he was like,
last chance. Let's go.
Yeah, I can see that. But then again, it's like, so what conversation are we having? Is it not that deep? Are we thinking too deeply about it? That he's wearing who he is?
I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is because this is a movie that asks you to think deeply about things like this. So, don't pose these questions if you don't want people to ask.
Right.
Right. Or to dig into them, I should say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I was also left a little confused. I mean, it was nice though. It was like it felt nice to see that Sammy had a fruitful career. He has his own blues club now. Obviously, he was successful enough.
Yeah.
And he didn't get attacked by vampires one day. They didn't come back for him.
Right.
And
that does also beg the question of like, where are all the vampires? For decades. Where are they?
You have to assume that there are other vampires, like groups of vampires, right?
Yeah, but where?
All around the world. You have to think this is like a Blade style like subculture that's living out, like in the shadows, no pun intended.
I don't know. I kind of would have liked the point where like what if they were sitting in the bar and he's playing the blues and Blade just walks but it's Mahershala Ali.
Yes.
And it's finally the Blade that we've been wanting, and it's all connected.
Yes. I'd watch Blade directed by Ryan Coogler.
That's what people were saying. They should have
my
just let Ryan
goodness.
Coogler direct it. Basically, this movie could have been...
Give him all the black ones.
Just give them all the black ones. Oh, fuck yeah, man. That missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a open-ended kind of thing of the kind of conversation to have, and I think that Ryan Coogler is trying to make people have these questions and think about this stuff and go like, well, yeah, I wonder why this thing happened, and I wonder why, these people are where they are, how they ended up where they ended up, and everything. So
Yeah.
Any other lowlights?
No, that was it for me. What about you?
Okay, this is a good and bad.
Okay.
I thought that Michael B. Jordan was good as Smoke and bad as Stack. I thought it was very clear, even if this was just a rumor and there's no truth to this, to me it is clear that this was not supposed to be a twins, let's get to the cutting edge of technology to film these two guys.
Of fake twin technology.
I don't think that was the point. I do genuinely think Ryan Coogler would have casted Jonathan Majors as Stack, as everyone has said was the rumor.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I think that Jonathan Majors would have nailed it as Stack.
Yeah.
And I think that this was a movie about two brothers and not twins. Because there's a moment, even in the story, even in this movie that was filmed, like they could have gone back and rewrote it, but they didn't. There is a moment where Stack calls Smoke his older brother, and it's like, I know that they're twins, and I know that like twins have this thing where they're like, even if you're a minute older, you're technically my older sibling. I get that. I don't buy it.
Okay.
I just don't.
You felt like that was a lazy rewrite?
I do. And I think Michael B. Jordan crushes it in the leading man, straight man role.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's as good in the more eccentric, darker role.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I was a little like, he's not really nailing it here.
He is not scary enough.
No, he's not. He's not. That's exactly what it is. He's too handsome. He's too leading
cool.
man.
He's too
cool. It just
Which
doesn't
is
work.
Perfect for Smoke.
Yeah, he's perfect as Smoke. He is perfect as Smoke. He works. And then when you get to the parts where, like, I just don't think they do enough with Stack. I don't think that there's enough characterization. I don't think there's enough to kind of convince you of his motivations. I think that they focus so much on, like, there's moments in Smoke's story where you're like, okay, I get where he's coming from.
Yep.
I get his motivations. I get why he's doing what he's doing. But there's not enough moments with Stack where you're like, why the fuck is he head over heels for this bitch? Just like, who is this? Why does he care so much? He fucking put his life on the line just to have sex with her one more time.
Well, they're very light with the backstory about them growing up with the recently deceased mom of Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah. They kind of touch on that.
That being the connection.
They don't just imply. Stack literally tells a story about how Smoke killed his dad,
right? Because
he was beating on them,
right?
And there's that part where it's like, wait, is that like a rumor, or is that a for real story?
Right.
And you don't really get the answer to that either. Or it's like, did he really kill his dad? Did he kill his own dad because they were beating on him and his which, I mean, I sure, but
seems like something that should be more underlined or like dealt with in some way.
Yeah. And the relationship with him and the you said in the synopsis, does it say that was his wife? His estranged wife?
Estranged wife. Yeah.
That wasn't clear.
Yeah.
That was very confusing. Their relationship was a little confusing.
Yeah, because it's clear that they were together, obviously, and I mean, from the first shot of him being back there, he goes immediately to the grave of their baby. Very sad and
super sad. But I also was like a little confused, and maybe this was my fault for not like paying attention as much as I thought I was paying attention. But like she could have until the spark started to fly a little bit more. She could have been anybody. to him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't immediately apparent that there was a romantic link.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I was a little confused,
And
and
I think-
especially when they start going at it, I was like, "Oh,
Whoa.
okay."
I think some of that.
What?
I think some of that is that she. I mean, they're both standoffish with each other when they're first introduced, and you know, like screenwriting 101 is like the introduction of a character is the most important scene for that character.
Yeah.
So having them start off on such cold terms, I feel like makes sense story-wise, but again puts you in this weird place of like having to figure out what their history is and then put it together and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of people have that issue where they're like, what's going on with these
Yeah,
two?
what's the deal with these guys?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah.
And then they start fucking. And you're
Oh
like,
yeah, immediately.
Oh.
Expeditiously.
Expeditiously. He just left his wife to go hustle.
Be a gangster.
in the north. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he left her to go fight in World War I, apparently.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then after that, I think just kept on keeping on.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
So, but I mean, yeah, there are plenty of stories to tell, I'm sure, within this story. But
Yeah.
I for one hope that they never touch Sinners again. I hope this is it.
Well,
for
and
Sinners.
and Ryan Coogler has said that he's not going to make a sequel to this movie.
Good.
So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that he's like, listen, we did the movie. We told the story we were going to tell. That's it.
Right.
But I will say that there is a lot of story on the table.
Plenty to tell. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you could just do a prequel, no vampires involved. I think people would expect vampires, but the thing is, okay, all right, let's go back to bad.
Okay.
The vampires.
Yeah.
The entire vampire subplot.
Yeah.
It's weak. And it doesn't.
How so? How do you find it weak?
I find it weak because, again, it's too abrupt. I think that if there was some kind of, because you were alluding to this earlier about the music industry and the generational idea of like white people taking black music and being successful off of it, and like and I do think that they allude to that.
Yeah.
I think that the idea of them being blood-sucking vampires would have worked better if they were a bit more overt about the idea that he is there to... Because I'll say this. They don't do... I mean, he says that he's there for Preacher Boy, right?
Yeah.
But they murder everybody. So it's not like... they cared enough to be like, listen, we're only here for him because of his music. We want that thing. He says it, but they kill everybody.
I do think that's a means to an end, though, because they want more, manpower.
But if they just murder everyone, then like, what is
not murder in his eyes? He's converting them to whatever symbiotic thing that he's
and then
doing.
they're out there singing hymns and shit, and it's like, how much do they really need?
They
this
learn.
guy?
They learn Irish music.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Right.
And they'll start doing that.
But I think there would have been it would have been better if there was more scenes where like each character that had been converted,
Right.
had come to the door and been like,
Turned.
listen, all he wants is Preacher Boy. He can see the future, and Preacher Boy is the future. Yeah. His music, the blues.
He's a vessel to...
This is it.
Yeah.
So if each character had like come to the door and been like, Smoke, let him out. Like we don't even want to kill anybody in there. All we want is Preacher Boy's music. We want him because this is how we are all going to be. If there was a little bit more to that, then
he becomes more of like a Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. Because I think that the metaphor falls apart when they basically just kill every person that walks outside the bar. If there was a little bit more of, I don't know, like a subtle touch of like, we don't even like when Homeboy, who's watching the door, guy from 8 Mile, when he goes out, like I think it would have been a funny bit to just let him live.
He just goes, He takes a dump.
Yeah, and then he comes back, and they're like,
"What's going on?"
And they didn't give a because how important is he to their overall goal? He's unimportant, other than like you said, to maybe build this army. But what is an army of like 20 people who are there to fucking?
That's Omar Miller, by the way.
Omar Miller
as Cornbread.
I like him. I think he's a great actor.
He was great in it. Yeah,
and. I think that it would have been. I think it would have been a funny bit, and I also think that it would have been more to the point of we are here for a certain thing, not to just mindlessly kill everybody that leaves the bar.
Now I ask, is that extending them? Turning everyone in the juke joint, is that extending the metaphor of this machine of the music industry? Converting people into like just wanting the most baseline slop.
Well, maybe, but they don't take the same care with Delta Slim. They don't give a fuck about him.
Yeah,
and they also kill Mary too. And it's like it's only because she leaves the bar that they just kill her. They just convert her for no reason. What does she bring to the table? Other than maybe luring Stack out, but then like who gives a fuck about Stack? Because he's not there for.
Well, he's the part owner of the place. So if he says, "Hey, let's let these people in,"
I guess. But if they maybe had said that in some way, like we killed her to get to him then maybe there could be something there.
Sure.
But otherwise, it just kind of okay. This is the issue. The vampires. It happens too fast and too sudden, and the metaphor falls apart because Ryan Coogler wanted to do the vampire thing, and all of that stuff is fun and great, and it's a fun climax of the movie, or I guess I should say third act, like action upswing.
Sure.
But it is at the expense of the deeper story that's being told.
Sure.
So now you get into the weeds rather, of what are you actually trying to say here? Because now the vampires are just killing everybody, and it's just a vampire movie. And that's my biggest beef with this movie entirely. Is that it is essentially, like we talked about earlier, it is two movies.
Yeah. It's
this great story that's being told in the first hour and a half, and then it's a vampire movie. And vampire movies are fun. I love vampire movies, but they're not that deep. They're not really telling that deep of a story. They're not really going anywhere. And I think the metaphor falls apart in the second half. That's my biggest beef.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I think in thinking about it more, I feel like the metaphor also falls apart a little bit with Remick explaining how his own culture was also subjugated.
Right.
And, he alludes to the fact that Christianity was pushed upon the Irish long ago, and he essentially hates Christianity, but still holds on to some of the prayers and such. He knows the Lord's Prayer, for instance, and I guess again, maybe I'm thinking way too deep about this. Is the idea behind Remick being Irish and being part of, and thus being part of a subclass within America at one point, is that trying to say that like hurt people, or is that trying to humanize him even more and saying like, I'm like you guys?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure exactly what they were going for with that, other than obviously making this villain even more like easily empathized with.
Well, and I don't think that Ryan Coogler would be telling a story that is essentially Irish people suffered just as much as black people in America.
Right.
I do think that you could misconstrue it that way. I do think that the way that the story kind of unfolds, you could misconstrue it into thinking that. I think what he's trying to say is the fact that he is this manipulating vampire. He is going to say whatever he can to get these people out of that juke joint. And so he is going to try to empathize with these people, much in the way that people do nowadays when they're like, I get it, man. You know, I'm you know,
I would have voted for Obama 3 times
yeah,
if I
exactly. I think that is what he's trying to use him as a vessel for. Is this person is like, he's telling that story, but in essence, he's just pure evil. But I think that thinking takes away some of the power of his character.
I was gonna say I don't know if I completely buy in on that though, because
But it can't be both things.
I understand, but at the same time, I don't think Ryan Coogler's intention was to invalidate, you know, the historic struggle of the Irish as well. Just
I don't think so. No.
Not necessarily to point to who struggled the most in America. I think that's a silly debate to have.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe that is part of the conversation. Is like the whole like was the suffering contest, the oppression contest,
Depression Olympics.
Yeah, there you go, the oppression Olympics.
Oppression Olympics.
You know, like to start that conversation. But
Right,
I don't
right.
know.
Yeah, I don't think that's. But maybe that's part of it too, because that is an ongoing conversation of people going like, "Hey, man, we suffered too." So it's like we were able. There's so many people.
What are you complaining about?
Yeah, they come to this country and they're like, "We've had it bad." And then we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we are where we are now. And it's like, what are you complaining about?
Right.
And I do.
Maybe you should get over it.
I think there's there's so many people that still don't really understand like the systemic problems or issues that Black people still face, are still dealing with now. You know, that is preventing them from having the kind of opportunities and situations that a lot of other people have. Like, sure, you came to this country and you did what you did and you are who you are. You open up a car wash, or you're a successful car salesman, or whatever, and
Bodega.
you've provided for your family or what have you. But you haven't had to suffer from redlining.
Sure.
You know, you haven't had to suffer from people looking at a house that you're trying to sell and seeing your name and going, that's a Black name. I'm going to evaluate this house at $300,000 less than what it would be valued at if it was a white name.
Not even that, seeing Black pictures in the house,
and that being enough for you to be like, I'm not gonna be able to sell this. Like you have to understand that kind of stuff is a thing that maybe is not readily apparent to you, and it's not really apparent to me or to you or to her or anybody else, because it's not something that you think about on the daily.
Sure.
But it is something that is systemic. That's the point of the word systemic.
Right.
It is built into the system that built this thing.
Right.
And so when you think that it's done because we had a Black president once, I think that's part of the conversation that Ryan Coogler is trying to have here.
Yeah.
Is like, there's still so much to be said. There's still so much story left to tell, and there's still so many things that we need to deal with. But again, I think that the vampire thing kind of like flies in the face of that.
Undercuts it a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Sure.
So there's that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Do you agree, Celine?
What do you think? Vampire. Look at her.
Oh my God.
Just look at her. Hey, look at the camera. She can't hear that.
She doesn't know what the camera is.
All right. I don't know. Is there anything else that we need to any other categories?
Yeah, there's one more thing we have to do.
Yes.
And that's review this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Marco, what would you give Ryan Coogler's Sinners?
I'm going 5.5 bottle caps. I think it's near perfect. I think there's some stuff that I have an issue with. I think there's little things that prevent it from being a movie that I would like rank 6 out of 6.
Yeah.
But it is damn near. I'd even go so far as to say it's a 5 3/4, 5.75.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic film. I think it's a triumph in every way, shape, and form. I think it's one of the best movies of the year, and I think it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And I hope and pray that it like just becomes part of the echelon of horror movies. I just think it's fantastic, man. I think Ryan Coogler really, really knocked it out of the park. And the people who enjoy this movie are not being, they're not exaggerating. They're not being hyperbolic. I think it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I agree completely. 5.5 out of 6 bottle caps is what I rank it. Yeah, to your point, I think the performances, I think the music, some people call it like a partial musical, which I agree with. I think it's so good.
I can rock with that.
The fact that it has real blues musician Buddy Guy in it is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think it is a movie almost specifically made for me and my interests. So, yeah, 5.5. I think it has a couple little quibbles here and there, but not enough to detract me from recommending it to everybody that I come across, and also rewatching it, I'm sure, as many times as I possibly can in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it.
This has been the One Reel In podcast.
You got anything else?
I can find a drop. We need a clacker.
Oh, we need to get a clacker.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.